in October, you guys had a cover of the US dollar, as I recall, shaped like a rocket ship going up, and the cover line was the envy of the world. And today, this week, you have a badly damaged American eagle looking like it needs, restorative surgery on many fronts. What has changed in this short period?
Well, the administration has changed, and we have a new administration engaged in a revolutionary project to remake America's foreign policy, to completely transform its economy, to attack independent institutions, law firms, universities, the Federal Reserve Chairman. And that's led to massive shocks, a massive geopolitical shock, but most importantly, as Ken Griffin said, a dramatic economic shock in the form of the tariffs, a huge self-inflicted wound. And so suddenly the United States, from being an incredibly successful economy, which is what we were highlighting last year, has put these enormously self-inflicted wounds and is becoming a place where outsiders look and think, is this a credible economy? We can't predict what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. Institutions, credibility, the rule of law, all the things that people took for granted in the US are now being questioned. And we have another huge number of days to go.
So Ray, your Bridgewater, the firm you founded, put out a report a couple of days ago, and it says, it reflects what Zanny was saying and says that all of this produces huge risks. We expect a policy-induced slowdown, including a probability of a recession. The Fed is going to be less able to handle this, and so there are risks of stagflation, the combination of slow growth and inflation. U.S. corporates are under threat. There's exceptional risk to U.S. assets. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, by and large, I'd agree with that. I don't think it covers what's going on. So let me just clarify. We have a problem with the debt. We have a problem with internal order, democracy as we know it, the system. We have a problem of a geopolitical order, rising power, challenging an existing power in that global environment. These things exist as the backdrop of this set of circumstances. Now there's been volatility. There's been, yes, in my opinion.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is you seem to be reluctant to comment directly.
No, I'll comment directly.
What are the effects of the Trump administration's policies in the last 100 days economically?
The effects of those policies economically is to bring to the surface issues about the polarity that exists. And at the same time, it's doing it in a volatile way that is causing trouble in terms of the volatility of that.
Okay.
So it is dealing with problems, and at the same time, it is the way it is dealing with problems could be done more smoothly, more cooperatively to produce a less volatile result.
Zanny, let me ask you. You said we're still not out of the woods, and is because many of these tariffs have just been paused. You're talking about negotiating with dozens and dozens of countries simultaneously. Assume the best case scenario that they get a bunch of trade deals with most of these countries. I want to keep China for later. You still are at a situation where tariffs will be much higher, right? I mean, American tariffs were around 2.5%. I don't know where they will end up, but they're clearly going to be somewhere between 10 and 20% now. So does that itself, I mean, that alone changes the economic outlook, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been the single biggest tariff increase in history. The US tariffs, as you say, were around 2%. They went above 20%. They're well above 20% now. It's a tenfold increase. And Ray is an expert on long-term economic trends, and I agree with him. There are fundamental challenges facing the US, particularly the size of the budget deficit. But what I think is undisputable is that this administration has chosen an economic course, this enormous increase in tariffs, which pretty much every economist will tell you is completely self-defeating. Whatever you hear, this is a tax on consumers. It's likely to push the economy into recession. But more important than that is that it is eroding investors' faith in the dollar. And the dollar is the absolute basis of the global financial system. US treasuries are the safest of safe assets. And what we've seen right now is that in the last few weeks is that investors are worrying about US assets because you're seeing the stock market fall, you're seeing bond yields rise, bond prices fall, and the dollar fall. And that kind of simultaneous falling of pretty much every asset is something that you can see in emerging markets when they have a crisis. But it's not what you expect in the United States. And because the United States, as Ray has written, is sort of at the basis of the global financial system, that is what is seriously dangerous right now. We could, at some point, and I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen, but there's an uncomfortably high risk that we have a serious dollar crisis as investors move out secularly of US assets. And that would be catastrophic, even worse than the impact of this enormous tariff increase. And frankly, all of that is, to me, the wrong medicine for the problems that the US has. I happen to think the US economy is in much better shape than many people do. But with this self-inflicted wound, it is really hurting itself and causing potentially enormous damage to the rest of the world too.
妈妈是我的心肝宝贝，她值得最好的。想帮助提升行动力，养颜美容，水嫩透亮，我为妈妈选择石纪岩德国胶原蛋白生态。知道妈妈总舍不得买给自己，我来买。希望妈妈轻松有活力又美丽，假霸基。现在就上快点购母亲节石纪岩德国胶原蛋白生态宠爱妈妈超值专区，享各项女神好礼，最高双重送，1000加送520元购物金。透过中天新网 App 下单或输入 CTI 推荐码，每单再减50元。